Albert Breer made news today. He had a long report and said that Trey Lance was initially annoyed about the Niners keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. You had Albert Breer on your radio show on 95.7 to clarify. Can you tell him what he said and what your take is about all this?
Well, it was almost, Granny almost like walked it back because he edited the story after the interview and put it out again and kind of took out the words that made it seem like Trey was bothered. So I don't know if the 49ers reached out to him or if he got any pushback elsewhere or if he just felt like he used language he didn't want to use or phrasing he didn't want to use. But I don't want to say he walked it back, but he seemed to downplay it when we asked him about it. It was like, hey, he was initially upset, but he didn't make. I mean, Trey and Jimmy and the 49ers, everybody's trying to paint the picture that everybody's on the same page. And this report obviously flew in the face of that. But then when confronted with his own report, I seem to feel like he was trying to step back from it a little bit and not necessarily reinforce that notion. Like maybe he had reconsidered it.
Right. When I read it this morning, I was thinking this is big news. But at the same time, he buried it at the bottom of a 10,000 word bonanza of an article. So I'm thinking, is this really big news? And then he's basically said well, it was just a normal reaction that anyone would have, like just initially. But he quickly understood all the context and stuff. So it seemed like he was kind of trying to say it's not a story. It's not a report.
Well, and maybe Trey was just being totally candid and forthright, or maybe whoever shared that information with him, felt like Trey confided in that person. But you know what? To me, if he's not disappointed, I'm more concerned than if he is disappointed. I mean, why wouldn't you be disappointed? This is your job. This is your profession. You want to get it rolling. He hasn't played a lot of football. I'm sure he'd love to play. But it doesn't mean that he's not going to play, right? It just means that he's got that much more pressure on his back to play well and to be efficient and to move the football team. Yeah, which is probably what Kyle loves.
If he didn't care that Jimmy was here, you'd think, are you really driven to be the franchise quarterback? I think Steve Young was annoyed that he had to share the room with Joe Montana and vice versa. It's natural. He shouldn't say it, and clearly he didn't say it, but off the record, I'm sure. Why would you not acknowledge that? Yeah. I don't think we need him. I think I'm ready. They don't clearly. I mean, and also, again, they can say whatever they want to Trey Lance. He's just a backup. We love you. Internally, he's got to be questioning how they really feel, even if they love him, even if they really do.
Well, I think that, you know what, there's a lot of dynamics at play here. Usually teams like the 49ers who are in their Super Bowl window don't wind up with talents like Trey Lance who need time. And I think long term, I feel very confident that Trey's going to get there. But, there's pressure to get it done right now. So, how could he not feel the pressure or feel, be disappointed in any way if Jimmy were coming back? It in some ways he could see it as what a lot of people see it as, which is a hedge that he's going to be able to fulfill his potential this year.
I think what's annoying to me is how they expect us to believe them when everyone's like, oh yeah, super excited that Jimmy's back, super happy to be here. This is what we all wanted. No, of course you probably have some feelings that you can't share publicly, but when you just stand there and be super excited, this is great. I mean, it's not just Trey, it's everyone in the organization. It's come on, it's awkward. We all know it's awkward. It might be for the best, but you don't have to acknowledge it, but we will.
John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan's job is to not make sure that Trey's happy. Their job is to make sure that the 49ers win. Does this move help the 49ers win? Yeah. It does. Yeah. Does it make Trey happy? No, it doesn't. But that's not the priority.
No, what would make Trey happy would be $50 million a year and no Jimmy Garoppolo here. And one day he could attain that. But so far, right now, I always said the Niners should go all in with Trey, but it's different. They're not the Bills of 2019, 18. They're not a rebuilding team. They can't just give the roster to a kid who's not ready. So it's fair for them to have a starting caliber backup. Once he shows that he can play 17 games a year at a very high level, they won't need to have Jimmy Garoppolo anymore. But he hasn't really proven that that's not necessary. What's he started? 3 games? It's fair.
Yeah.
Fair. And what did you say when this happened? You said, I think the Niners Super Bowl odds just went up significantly. I agree with you on that. They should have.
They should have. I don't know if they actually did, but they should have, because now they've got two quarterbacks they feel like they can win with, and more importantly, you are insured against the injury that suddenly in the middle of the year you lose 5 of 6 because your quarterback's out. They've got 2 quarterbacks now that they can win games with in the regular season at least.
I don't know why, but I've been going back and looking at the 1972 Dolphins, the undefeated team. I wasn't alive back then, but I don't know anything about them. They're one of the greatest running teams of all time. But what was interesting to me is that Bob Greasy was their quarterback. He broke his ankle week 5, and they had Earl Morrall the whole year. And then Greasy came back at the very end, the championship game of the Super Bowl. Like, the greatest team of all time needed 2 quarterbacks to get it done. Maybe the Niners are going to follow that blueprint as well. They might need 2 quarterbacks to get this done.
Well, Jimmy has proven that he can't stay healthy. Trey, is first of all, they're both operating behind a line that a lot of people feel like is the biggest question mark coming into the year. Yeah. And you want to get your quarterback hit, killed, or hurt, just have issues on the interior of your offensive line, and that's where they're really inexperienced. So I think it's smart. I think it's absolutely smart to have multiple quarterbacks, and who cares if you're inviting the circus to town? They can handle it. Everybody can handle it.
Go to my website, 49ersQCmerch.com. See if there's anything you like. 10% off CPH1 promo code.